1 has been changed to a non-published number.
Warning, the following show contains conservative posturing, radical Christian ideas, and may offend pagans, Wiccans, Islamic fundamentalists, and other unenlightened individuals. Callers and guests may be subjected to brash and offensive comments by the hosts and any other type of bullying tactics available. But that's okay. We know why you're here.
This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
Tonight is Monday, July 28th, 2008.
All aboard. Just in time for World of the Unexplained. I'm your host, Jay Scott. And tonight, another thrilling adventure into the world of the unknown and the unexplained. We have with us tonight Dr. Bruce Hennigan, author of The 12th Demon, Vampyre Majick. And of course, he spells vampire and magic funny. We'll have to talk to him about that, see what that's all about, right, D?
That's right.
This is Jay Scott. I'm your only JD on the OmniSound Radio 1 network. Sitting beside me today, filling in for Mr. Trent Lackey, is our own producer, wonderful Mr. D. Clements.
How are you doing, everybody?
That wasn't spectacular. I wanted something better.
Okay. This is JD.
JD.
Your only
JD.
Clements on the OmniSound Radio 1.
There we go. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Hennigan. He was born and raised in Shreveport, Louisiana. And he was the son of a postman. His parents worked diligently to provide for their family. That's good. Good American story there. Mother drove a local school bus. And his father took some extra jobs, one of those being a part-time farmer and a part-time music minister. So as a child, a strong Christian foundation was instilled into the doctor. And he started, his imagination obviously flared, being in the wonderful state of Louisiana. I'm sure you see a lot of great stuff down there, and he started writing. Creative writing was where he wanted to go, and that's what he ended up doing with this book. But in the meantime, God led him to become a doctor, a radiologist, as a matter of fact. And so we'll talk more about that. He later entered into what's the word I'm looking for here? Apologetics. Thank you. He entered into apologetics with a group called Reasons to Believe, a ministry worldwide, and that's where we're at. So, Dr. Hennigan, welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
That was a terrible introduction. I'm sorry. I was skipping all over the place.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Anybody from Louisiana can definitely claim to have strange backgrounds.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff, though. Good stuff. So I hear, and this is the first time we really didn't get a chance to talk much off air, but, as far as, your colleagues and what they believe about, I don't know, creationism versus evolution, is that something that kind of led you to want to get into the apologetics and start kind of...
Definitely. My partners, of course, we're all scientists being doctors, and they would ask me really tough questions that I just couldn't answer about God and, evil and suffering and all those questions about life, the universe, and everything that you hear on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But anyway, they asked me all those tough questions, and I couldn't really answer them, and I really couldn't reconcile those, the fact that I'm a scientist and I believe in all this stuff of faith. So I had to go out and do some searching and ran across some writings by Dr. Hugh Ross, Reasons to Believe, and it kind of changed my life and got me into this. So, in fact, that was a lot of the impetus for me writing some of my books. So.
Okay. Now, this is the one we've got here, and I confess to you, I haven't read it. It just got shipped to me today, as a matter of fact. Don't you love it when that happens?
Oh, yeah.
But it looks pretty cool.
Then.
Yeah, well, it looks pretty good. I read the first chapter of it. The 12th Demon, Vampyre Majick. It looks like this is the second book in a series. The first one, I assume, was the 13th Demon?
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about your character, Jonathan Steele, and what he's battling here.
Well, my main character is Jonathan Steele, who suffers from amnesia, and he cannot remember anything about his past except for the fact that somewhere in his past he became a Christian. So he has this strange religious connection, but he doesn't understand it because of his amnesia. And he ends up in a situation where he has to face off against an evil serial killer possessed by the 13th demon, whatever that means, in the first book. And tragedy ensues, and he ends up trying to track down this vile creature called the 13th demon. And in the first book, he ends up in a small town helping a pastor whose church has come under the possession of this evil force, and it has to do with a businessman in the small town. And, of course, he has his final confrontation with the 13th demon. And all that does is open the door for what is going to become sort of his purpose in life, and that is to battle a council of darkness composed of 12 humans who are possessed by the 12 most powerful demons in the service of Lucifer. And so he finds out in the second book that he has to, this is going to become a recurring theme in his life, where he has to face down these demons, and he has to help people overcome the evil in their life. And in the process, he learns more about himself. He begins to recover his memory.
No, is each demon more powerful than the last one?
You bet.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah, they are. As you go up the corporate ladder, they get a little bit more powerful, a little bit quirkier, a little bit more dangerous. So
wait till we get to the first one. No, that's not going to be good. So you've planned all this out in advance. I mean, you know what's going to happen at the end of this whole thing.
That's right. I originally, the 13th demon was going to stand on its own, and then a publisher that I had shopped it around to said, well, are you going to write about the other 12? And something in my head went ding. And so I sat down and worked out the huge story arc over all of the books. In fact, I've written the third to the last book, which is where my main character, Jonathan Steele, recovers all of his memories. So
oh, wow.
I had to know where I was going, had to work to get to make sure I included plenty of backstory in the books. So, and it's just been a blast doing this. It really has. It's been a lot of fun. So.
It sounds like a lot of fun. How do you find the time?
Well, I'm a radiologist, and as a radiologist, we don't have a lot of office hours. We work like week-long chunks at a time, and when we take off, we can take a week off.
Oh, my gosh.
So when I take a week off, I'm sitting in front of my computer writing. So, and I've just, most of the story's been percolating in my head for about 9 years. So
I should have been a doctor.
I was going to say, usually when I
couldn't do math. I went to law school. I couldn't do the math. It's my day job. I'm a lawyer. I couldn't do math. I should have been a doctor.
I was going to say, when I take a week off, I just usually sit on the couch.
Yeah, there you go. But no, it's awesome. So how many pages do you chalk out of this thing a day when you're off?
Well, usually when I'm off, I'll do 2 or 3 chapters a day, which is maybe around 30 pages, 35 pages.
That's quite a bit.
But, I kind of do that all in one chunk. When I really get it, when the story gets percolating, I sit down and I'll write solid for about 3 or 4 weeks. And I finish the book and I put it aside. Like I finished the third book in the series, and I've got it sitting on the shelf kind of figuratively for about 2 months, and then I'm going to go back to it and start the rewriting process, and that's really the hard part. The writing is easy. You just let your mind go, and I have such a vivid imagination. I can't keep up. My fingers can't keep up with my brain. So
yeah.
It's the editing that comes to haunt you.
Editing, that's where the work, that's where you sweat.
I tell you, it looks, like I said, I've only read the first chapter, and that's when I got it today, that's all I had time to do. But the first chapter brought me in, and now I feel like I've got to find out what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it kind of makes you want to get the
I try to write a book like I want to read it, and I want somebody to grab me with that first page and just don't let me go.
Well, that's good, right? What was your undergrad? Was it English?
Yes.
That was mine, too.
I minored in English in college. So.
Yeah, that was mine, too.
Which is real useful for a doctor. Hello, we can't even write, Can't even understand our writing or read it, so...
But no, that's good stuff. We've got to get your first book now after I finish this one. Can I read it backwards? Would it?
Oh, yeah.
If I read the second one, if I read this one, will I miss out when I read the first one?
No, not really.
Okay, so each of these can stand on their own pretty good.
They stand on their own.
Oh, that's nice.
So I put enough of the backstory in the second book so you know what happened in the first book, so...
Now, where's the best place for somebody to get these?
Well, I have a website. It's 13th Demon, 13thdemon.com, and there's also a 12thdemon.com. You go to those websites, and there's links to order the first book. The first book, it's easier to get through Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. Now, the second book is, I just got an email the other day that the Barnes & Noble's main warehouse has ordered hundreds of these books, so they're going to ship them out to their stores. So you should be able to find the 12th Demon in just about any Barnes & Noble or regular bookstore. So the first one's
awesome.
a little harder to find. I'm working on a better distribution pattern for it. You go to that website, 13thdemon.com, and you can order it, or 12thdemon.com, and you can order it.
Okay. Well, very good, very good. Now, as far as these things go, when did this first book come out?
It came out in November 2006.
And then this one just came out.
Yeah, it came out in June of this year.
Okay, so that's a pretty good
Yeah,
run.
it's a year and a half turnaround time.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Not bad. I have a feeling the third book will be a little longer, but that's okay. Don't tell anybody.
Which one are you working on now? Then is book 3 done?
The 11th Demon, the Children of the Bloodstone.
Okay.
And it's going to be about UFOs and aliens and alien abductions. So.
Uh-oh, you got me started on a crazy point now, right, D?
That's right.
Are you familiar with the I call them the Genesis Sixers? Are you familiar with the whole idea behind the Days of Noah, Genesis 6, and how a lot of the people, as a matter of fact, some of our guests, L.A. Marzulli being one of them, how they'll tie in, they believe that the UFO sightings are demons, and it's part of the great deception used for the end-time prophecy.
How about that?
It's some interesting stuff. We can talk off air about it, but it's definitely interesting.
Well, that's certainly that's one of the theories that I'm going to bring out in my third book. So,
okay.
But I've never heard of the Genesis Sixers. I'd like to look that up.
Well, yeah, I can. Like I said, we can talk off air about it. I can give you a couple good resources if you're interested.
Yeah, I'd like to have that. Because what I try to do with my books is I want to tell a really good story, but I want to take an issue like this and I want to give a lot of different points of view that are founded in historical data or research, or I want to give the reader a chance to kind of, look at that stuff and make up their own mind. But I don't want to take, I do take a particular viewpoint for the sake of the story, but I really want to make people think. I want them to enjoy the story, but I want them to think about what they're reading. And I include a source page at the end of every book where I list books and websites on different issues raised in the book so that you can go. Of course, I don't know if anybody does that, but I would hope they would go and read about
independent research.
Some of the issues involved. So.
Okay, I'm looking for that right now. Actually, afterward, is this the references?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see the J. Gordon Melton. I've got that book, Vampire Book, the Encyclopedia of the Undead. I actually have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm familiar with Kathleen Ramsland. I actually talked to her about 6 months ago.
Oh wow.
She wasn't. She declined.
Oh, she declined.
Well, she's doing other things now. I'm definitely familiar with Screw Tape Letters. I think most people are.
Yeah.
Well, it's good stuff here. A lot of good stuff. Now, okay, stillchronicles.com.
Yeah, that's kind of like my master website.
Okay, that's got everything.
If you put 12th Demon in, it takes you to that website. So
okay.
It's easy to remember is 12thdemon.com. So.
Okay. Interesting stuff. So the out of the 13, why do you spell vampire with a Y and magic with a J-I?
Well, when I was researching vampire clans, this was back in the early, 2001, 2002. I got the impression that if you were a real vampire, you used a Y instead of an I.
Okay.
And then I ran across magic spelled with a K and some of the lore of some of these vampire clans, and so I just thought that would be kind of catchy to use it, spell it a little bit differently. It might, catch people's attention, and they want to ask the question you just asked. Why in the world did you spell it that way? and it's because if I were in a vampire clan and I didn't spell it that way, I might be considered an outcast or cast out of the clan or something. So
I got you.
Yeah, so that's why I did that.
Well, good stuff.
Makes people ask questions.
Definitely. I know amongst the practitioners of Wicca and all those other evil little entities that run around calling themselves white magicians, they like to spell it with a K to say it's real magic versus the parlor trick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Versus an illusion or something.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk more. We're going to take a short break. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. Tonight we have on Dr. Bruce Hennigan, author of the 13th and the 12th Demon, Vampyre Majick. We'll be back in just a second. And we're back, World of the Unexplained. Tonight our guest is Dr. Bruce Hennigan, author of the 13th Demon and the 12th Demon, and more to come. Our toll-free number, 1-877-722-7382, if you'd like to speak with Dr. Hennigan about his book. That number again, 1-877-SCARE-YOU-2, or locally 336-996-1596.
Did you like our phone number there? I heard you laugh there in the background.
Everyone loves that. It took me forever to get that thing. It was awful.
Scare you too. Huh?
Scare you too. Just like the band. We're scaring them. We're scaring Bono.
Scary.
So So what made you delve into this realm of the supernatural and the demonic?
Well, we live in a society where people really wonder if there's any such thing as evil. I think 9/11 kind of probably solved that problem for most people, maybe, but we have short memories. Yeah. But I wanted to write a book that explored that whole issue of, is evil real, and are there such things as demons? Is there such a thing as Satan? Is there such a thing as a good God? And so using, of course, as a Christian, I believe that it was just one step to explore that world and to bring it out into a story that would engage people and kind of maybe convince them that maybe some of this could possibly be real. Of course, I believe it's real, but I want other people to see that too, to see that we're in the midst of a spiritual warfare here. So, what was it last year, D? We did the interview with what is his name? The guy that wrote the book Possessed. We did an interview.
You would ask me.
I guess it was last year. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. It'll probably come back to me. But we did an interview with the guy that wrote the book Possessed, which was actually the actual story that they based the movie and the book The Exorcist off of.
Oh, okay.
And it was some really, those of you listening, if you want to hear it, you can get it in podcast form at wotu.libsyn.com. Is that it?
Libsyn? Or you can just go to worldunexplained.com and then just go to
click on the past podcast stuff. Yeah.
Oh, good.
But that's downloadable there. And it was definitely some eerie, creepy stuff going on there. And he'd interviewed the priest that had worked on it, and some of the things that he had told us that he had seen was just stuff that was it's scary.
Well, and we also talked to what's his name, Father John Zaffis's
Larry.
Yeah, Father Larry.
Okay. Yeah, he does exorcisms.
He does exorcism as well, and he was telling us some of his stories of. And
I think there's more of it. And I don't know if people are bringing it on themselves or not. Then it comes down to the big question: can a Christian be possessed? That's been posed to me before a lot of times, and the answer is no, not unless you allow it to enter.
Right, and that's in the 13th Demon. I talk about that exactly. Can a Christian become possessed by a demon? I think certainly they can influence a Christian, and. But as far as being possessed, unless you invite the thing in.
The Holy Spirit.
You're saved, but that doesn't mean that the demon can't do all kinds of. There's been demons after me all weekend. Because I guess they knew I was going to come on this show, and then yesterday I was teaching a class on apologetics, and everything that could go wrong this weekend went wrong. So
sounds like me in court last Monday.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we've seen some strange things since we've started doing this show. We started.
I bet you have.
We started back in. I guess we took the Christian conservative leaning about 2 Christmases ago?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was like back in 2005, or no?
Yeah, it was 06, I think.
06, yeah.
So 2 years ago, we started the conservative Christian leaning, and it's not all totally that, but most of our guests are, that are into the, we try to bring some of the supernatural stuff forward and show it for what it is.
Right.
And, a lot of people disagree with me, send me nasty emails, and I tell them, they're free to call in. I'll make fun of them and hang up on them just the same as any other talk show host.
Well, when I saw the way you described this program, I was thinking, wow, that's kind of like a Christian writing a horror novel about demons and Christianity and vampires, kind of like I did with the 12th Demon. I get the same thing, how can you mix Christianity and vampires? I don't get it. And I say, well, read the book,
Yeah.
Because for me, a vampire is a perfect parallel to how evil can creep into your life and begin to overtake you and make you weaker, and soon you're the walking dead.
True.
And so to me, there's kind of a metaphor there, and that's kind of what I use in the 12th Demon as how evil can overcome, possess you, come into your life, and slowly over time take over your life, and then you literally become the walking dead. Spiritually, So.
Well, are you familiar with any of Frank Peretti's work?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know if you'd read.
Frank Peretti and Ted Decker, and yeah.
I didn't know if you'd read what was the one they made into a movie, Visitation.
Yeah, I didn't see the movie, but I read the book.
The book was much better than the film.
Yeah, I bet it was. That seems to be the case with what I call inspirational books that get changed in the movies.
We did interview one of the guys from the film, though, because he was in another film that we were talking to him about, and I said, "Man, you were in The Visitation. I saw you. It was great." You know, that was that. Now, according to a recent Newsweek poll, I'm taking this right off. I'm pulling this right off of your press release.
Okay.
According to a recent Newsweek poll, 78% of Americans believe that God created human beings in our current form or guided an evolutionary process that led to our current form. What do you think of that?
Well, my question to them is, which God are you talking about? Are you talking about the God of the Bible, or are you talking about Oprah's God? Oops, I didn't say that. Or,
you mean the Savior, Barack Obama?
All right.
Yeah. I can't say that, right? Because it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, in fact, yesterday I just taught a class on this whole, the conflict between evolution and intelligent design, and are we here by chance? And there are a group of, Christians called that they're theistic evolutionists who believe that God used evolution to bring us to where we are. And I don't believe that, but that's they're certainly welcome to believe that. I'm a lot more conservative in my beliefs. I think God is a creator, and He created us specially and uniquely.
Sure.
That's. I think people really want to believe in God, but they want to believe in a God that they can define. The God that I see in the mirror every morning, or a God that can let me do what I want to do, and He's under my control. And so when they use that word God, 78% of the people say they're going to believe in a God, but which God is it? Whose God is it?
Well, I find it interesting.
Or whose God is she?
Yeah, the goddess. I find it interesting when we have people on the show. A lot of times they say, well, they claim to be a Christian. I say, well, okay, well that's great. Well, so you believe in Jesus Christ, right? And you believe that He died on the cross for your sins, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you find out that they don't believe what their label of Christian is something totally different from what the Bible's version of it is.
That's right.
So you wonder when people say, like, some of these stats will say, like, over 70-some% of the people in America are Christians. Well,
right.
What's a Christian? I mean, how do you define that?
Define that.
Who's answering these polls?
Exactly.
So that's scary stuff too. So going back to the apologetic stuff, you had the guys at work, were they bothering you? What kind of questions were they asking you that you couldn't answer?
They were just asking me. It's what I call the steamroller technique. In other words, they had a set of questions, and they just kind of machine gunned me. They didn't give me a chance really to answer any of them. There were questions like, how can a good God let children suffer, or something, the terrible tragedy take place, and who does He think He is, and how do you reconcile a God who's a creator with all we know evolution takes place, and just over and over and over, just those kind of really, the Bible's a bunch of fiction. Jesus didn't really exist. I mean, it's pretty much what I call the typical skeptical and atheist line that they always come at you with the questions, and I just couldn't. To be honest, I couldn't answer them. I was just so overwhelmed. I was just. It really shook my faith.
I understand
but
that.
It's the best thing that ever happened to me. So
that's good. That's good.
That's all right. I'm just reading about your, on your website, steelchronicles.com. I'm reading your little thing about you when you were a child.
Oh, yeah.
And your brother was a taxidermist, and
yes.
I'm reading this, and I'm sitting here going, wow. Because if that was me, 2 seconds later, when them dogs started coming out of the bushes, I'd have been in the house. If it was 100 yards away or not.
I was literally just frozen in fear. And growing up in the country like that, my brother was a taxidermist, and there were all kinds of wild animals and feral dogs that lived out in the woods, and it really fueled my. I mean, to this day, the mere thought of a werewolf just terrifies me. Because I just think about those dogs howling in the woods. The children of the night.
Yeah.
The music they make.
Man. See, and that's because I used to. Well, I still live in the country, but I lived in the kind of lived with my wife's parents for a while, and they had like 11 acres, and the hunters used to come down to the edge of the woods, and they used to do that. They used to dump the deer carcasses and stuff out there at the edge of the woods. So I know what you're talking about when you're out there, and then all of a sudden you just hear those just horrendous howls from the wild dogs that are just hanging out down there. And I don't know how many times you'd come out in the morning and there'd just be parts of a deer carcass laying in the yard or whatever,
And, and I finally got to where I could play with those deer parts, the bones after a while. But, early in my life, it was, that's chilling to see these, this eyeball staring at you out of a bear skull and this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just reading this and I'm sitting there going, wow, just your whole thing about you could be a whole book in itself.
I may have to write that someday.
I'm serious. This is just scary just reading it off of just your bio.
Now, I want to ask you a question about evolution.
Okay.
And I don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't know the answer to this, but wasn't Darwin? I've heard stories. I don't know how accurate this is. I can't remember the source, so you always have to be careful of those. But is it accurate to say that Darwin, at the end of his life, was really upset at what his name had been attached to?
Well, I did a lot of research on that, but there's a book out called Darwin's God, and it's a fascinating book. It's really tough to read, but it's an excellent book, and it traces Darwin's life and how in his early adulthood years he lost a daughter, and he became very angry with God, and his anger at God and his need to try to separate God from what he saw as evil and suffering in nature, predatory activity and, animals getting their throats ripped out. And he wanted to separate that from God, and that's one of the main things that drove him to develop evolution. But over time, he slowly moved further and further away from God, and there is sort of an urban myth that when he died, he recanted and he reclaimed his Christianity. But most sources believe that's just an urban myth, that he really, when he died, he had totally renounced God and everything. He died an atheist. So.
Oh, well.
Anyway, yeah, I know.
Well, we know where he's going.
Yeah.
No. There's the survival of the fittest.
The hottest. No, I'm sorry, I didn't say that.
Survival of the fittest. Isn't that attributed more to Lamarck than it is Darwin?
Yeah. There was a whole group of scientists who came to Darwin, and they all had all these different ideas. And that guy you just mentioned was one of them. And there was a group called the Cambridge Platonists who were philosophers at that time too. And they said, look, you're well known. You've gone to the Galapagos Islands. We want you to take all of our information. We want you to compile it and write the definitive paper about this theory of natural selection. And that's what he did. He sort of became the clearinghouse and the ghostwriter for putting all that together and developing the theory of natural selection, which of course became Darwinism and evolution, as we know it today. So.
Well, I have to say on some of that, on just like a side note of that, I do believe that, it's just my own personal belief sometimes. I believe that because of all the medicines that we have nowadays and that kind of stuff, I think that's part of the reasons why we have some of these really just odd diseases that we have and stuff, because there isn't that, natural selection kind of thing that happens anymore because of the medicines of today that actually help people who normally would not make it. They're allowing more and more of these strange genes to live and persist in the gene pool. And we are seeing some pretty, I'm a doctor, I know, I see it every day, really bizarre diseases and conditions taking place. And you put on top of that the drugs that we're giving them. We don't know, for 20, 30 years ago, we didn't know what these drugs did, plus all the radiation we're giving them, the x-rays and CAT scans, and I'm a radiologist, so I can say that. Yeah.
You just wonder what's going to happen. But you know what? Even if they're deformed or unusual or bizarre, they're still human beings.
Yeah, I know. They still deserve the right to live and have life.
But they don't change into vampires, werewolves, or something like that. Yeah. So they don't evolve. But anyway,
here's a question for you. Where do you believe these vampire myths came from?
Well, when you look at the history of the vampire myth, almost every culture has some kind of vampire mythology. It may be a psychic vampire, it may be a creature that sucks the life or the blood. So every culture has something like that. In the United States, interestingly enough, where the vampire myth really grew is at a time when tuberculosis became prevalent throughout the United States. And people would lay in their beds and literally just look like they were being consumed. That's why they call it consumption.
Yeah.
And then they would die, and they would go bury this person, and then within 2 or 3 weeks, somebody else would get sick. And so the myth sprung up that dead person had come back from the grave and was coming at night and sapping the life out of these people, and that's why they were turning pale and white and losing weight. And they would go and open the coffin, and there would be this bloated corpse with blood running out of the mouth because of the decaying process. And often, if you jiggle the body, gases would escape, and it would sound like it would moan, and so they thought the thing was alive, And so a lot of that, the disease of consumption, fueled a lot of the American myths of vampirism. And in Europe, it was kind of different, because in Europe, there was more of a mythology, like in Romania and Wallachia, about these vampire creatures, and especially after Vlad the Impaler, who was that guy who stuck people on poles.
Yeah.
That's horrible. I talk about that in The 12th Demon, by the way.
Oh, cool.
And that's where Bram Stoker got his idea of what Dracula should be. He pulled together all these myths plus Vlad the Impaler in his castle, and he kind of created a definitive modern vampire by pulling all these different elements together and putting them in one person, which is Count Dracula. And that's, today that's where we get our ideas of vampires, is from Bram Stoker's book, Count Dracula.
Who stole his ideas of Lord Ruthven from John Polidori. Yeah, there's a book that you might find, since you are a medical doctor, that you might find interesting. It's a book by a man named Paul Barber. I believe he's a professor at UCLA. It's out of print now. You can still find it, I believe, on eBay and some of these other secondhand retailers. But it's called Vampires, Burial, and Death, I believe is the title of it. And it goes into detail about these different things that you were talking about.
Oh, well, I'd like to read that.
It's a heck of a read, and it goes by and takes some of these older cases, case by case, and it goes. It's a really good read, though. It's from a scientific perspective. Yeah, but anyway, regardless.
There was even a book that came out that said that maybe the vampire myth sprang from people being molested in the night by adults, so maybe child molestation, and this dark figure coming in the room and sapping the life out of you. Some people say that may have been the foundation for it, as far as psychologically. I don't know about that one. I found one book on that was kind of moderately interesting. But anyway.
Well,
and of course, there's a disease called porphyria, where you have to drink blood. You have this craving for blood and iron, and you shun the light.
You're super white.
Yeah, very white. You get rashes if you get out in the sunlight, and so that kind of medical condition can make a person appear to be a vampire. So
I actually had that questionnaire on a recent visit to the dentist when I had a tooth extracted before my honeymoon. It was awful. Right before my honeymoon, I had to have this major. Oh, it was awful.
Oh, that's fun.
So, because I had an abscess tooth, it was really bad. It got all out of control. And so I go there, and they're going down this checkbox of stuff, and one of them says, check if you have any of the following, and one of them was, like you said, porphyria, and I was like, really?
Oh, wow.
I just couldn't believe they put that on the sheet, and I thought maybe of all non-medical people, I'm probably one of 100 that knows what this is.
Exactly.
I was like, I read weird books at night. I don't, yeah. But it's a very interesting, it's definitely an interesting way of doing this, an interesting way, I think, of grabbing people, people's attention to bring them into your, into your story and into what you're trying to show at the same time. In a more, I guess this would be more alluring to the common person that hasn't been exposed to any kind of belief system that they put any faith in.
And that's my whole point in writing the book. I've had 5 book reviews by secular websites, and one of them was dedicated to vampires, and every one of them was a glowing review of the 12th Demon,
wow,
Vampyre Majick, which kind of surprised me. And in every one of them, they mentioned the fact that I come from they would say, religious background, and there is some religion and theology in the story, and it's very interesting and well integrated into the story and not offensive, and the reader should read the book. And that's exactly what I want people. I want people to pick up the book and read it. I mean, if you're a Christian and you read Frank Peretti or Ted Decker, you'll love the book. I mean, because it's just a good, exciting, thriller of a book. But if you have non-believer friends or skeptics or people who are on the margin, they'll enjoy the book too, and it'll give them something to think about. So,
well, that's neat.
May open some dialogue. Who knows?
Definitely, a definite change in going about it.
Yeah.
I like it. It's good stuff. Well, we're gonna take our big break here. And when we come back, we'll discuss more about the 12th Demon, apologetics in general, and take your calls. If you want to call in, 877-722-7382, 877-SCARE-YOU2. We'll be back in a moment. And we're back on World of the Unexplained where we're explaining some of the X-Men. No.
If you want to give us a call at 1-877-722-7382 or 1-877-SCARE-YOU-2 or locally 336-996-1596.
Nothing but professional here.
I don't know why I got hung up on that.
Oh me, yeah, we're like son Trent and son Chuck tonight, so
Yeah,
we're pretty rough. We got a 2-man team and there's usually 4, so we're kind of going back and forth. And me, as usual, is not doing anything but running my mouth. So Dee's actually jumping around from place to place.
That's all right.
Bruce,
the name of your website, it's steelchronicles.com.
That's correct.
All right. You guys should go there, check it out. You can look at some of his bio, latest news. He also has a blog that's on there as well. And you can get his books, The 13th Demon, Layer... sorry. What is that?
Altar.
Goodness. Altar of the Spiral Evil Eye.
Yes.
Sheesh. I can't even read.
Try that again.
Yeah. 13th Demon, Altar of the Spiral Eye, and the 12th Demon, Vampyre Majick. And you can also get those books on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com.
Yes.
Now, give us, I don't know, the best way to do this, since I haven't read the book, and I apologize, I just didn't have enough time to read it today. Seeing as and we have a lot of this, a lot of times when we get Christian writers on here, and just writers in general, fiction books, we have a hard time because you don't want to give away too much of it, but you want to sprinkle in enough to where, the listeners that might be listening to the program is going to pique their interest enough to say, hey, you know what, that sounds like a cool book, let me check it out. Can you give us a brief synopsis, something that might pique the interest?
Sure. The 12th Demon picks up where the first book ends, but you can enjoy it without having read the first book. My main character, Jonathan Steele, has sort of inherited a teenage boy that he's going to become the guardian of. He makes a promise. You always have to be careful when you make promises.
Oh, yeah.
You have to keep them. And he goes back to Dallas, Texas, where this young boy grew up to, go through the legal system. And the young boy has a girlfriend who's part of a vampire clan. And he wants to emulate Jonathan Steele. He wants to save her from the evil of the vampire clan. Well, lo and behold, out of the blue shows up a man by the name of Rudolph Wolf, who is possessed by the 12th demon. He's from Eastern Europe, and he has created a special kind of blood. And when you ingest this blood, it gives you the powers of a vampire. And he has come to the United States to claim the territory of the 13th demon, who's now gone. And he wants to bring together these vampire clans and give them vampire magic, and he has a plan for what he wants to do with this army of vampires. It's a very sinister, evil plan. And, of course, Josh, the young teenager, ends up involved with this vampire clan, and Jonathan Steele, once again, has to race in and face off the evil and rescue the people that he loves from this the 12th demon.
Okay.
I get this weird visual in my mind that he's kind of the fedora kind of trench coat wearing kind of guy with the little satchel.
So how does he dress?
Well, he usually just wears a T-shirt and jeans.
Okay, he's the average Joe.
Listen, I tried to stay away from the fedora and the trench coat. I didn't want to get too stereotypical, but he's a very simple man. He really doesn't know much about fashion. He's kind of rough and gruff.
He's like me.
I was going to say, just like Scott.
Let me eat something, let me put some clothes on, let me bathe, and then let me take care of whatever I got to do today, which is face the next demon so I can get on with my life. So he's not a very pleasant person. He really isn't. In the first book, you just absolutely loathe Jonathan Steele when you first meet him, but, he grows on you. Of course, he's got a mentor by the name of Cephas Lawrence, who is an elderly man who knows a lot about history and archaeology, and he's kind of the father figure who helps Jonathan Steele figure out what's going on. Usually everything is tied into something from the past, and he kind of is helping him become a little bit more human. He's just a little bit, Jonathan Steele has a terrible temper, and he tries to, control his temper. That's his biggest problem, and Josh, this teenager, just pushes every button he's got. So there's that conflict between these two guys. Hey, you're not my son, but I've got to take care of you. So, so it's a love-hate relationship, and it's a real interesting dynamic between the two of them because they're stuck with each other now. And in the second book, and the 12 demons. So, and they're going to end up, stuck with each other for a long time. So they have to learn to live with each other, and it's kind of an interesting dynamic there.
Now, as far as like what you see sometimes in other novels and things like that, the stereotypical like demon slayer, does he have his like little bag of tricks, special items that he uses, or is it just kind of off the cuff kind of guy?
Well, the way that I portray the demons in my book is each one of them has a certain kind of appearance that they've adopted, because I believe that if you look at the Bible, look at scriptures, demons are fallen angels, and they have access to powers that they can make themselves look like just about anything, any human being or any animal or an inanimate object. So the way I portray my demons is their personality causes them to choose a certain appearance. And I don't want to give that away in the 12th demon, but each demon in their native form has a very distinctive appearance and a very distinctive power that they tend to kind of use. Now, what I try to do with their powers is I try to stick with something that's plausible, that may be a manipulation of the laws of physics, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could do this by just kind of tweaking and twisting the laws a little bit. So,
right.
Yeah.
Now, how much research did you do into exorcism and into demonology before you started writing this?
I did quite a bit of it, and in fact, I have met a demon-possessed person. So
Really?
Yeah, when I was an intern in medical school, late one night in our emergency room, I met a young girl who was probably 17, weighed about 80 pounds, and they thought, when they brought her in, they said she's probably on drugs. And at that time, my job was just to screen these people when they came in and either ship them to surgery or ship them to the floor or send them up to the psych ward. And when I walked down the hall, every light had been ripped out of the ceiling. There was 4 policemen who were standing at the far end of the hall from the examining room, scared to death, and they were in trouble then. And I was expecting this big, huge, monstrous guy. And I opened the door to that examining room, and the sink had been ripped off the wall, the mirror had been busted, the examining table looked like claws literally had ripped open the fabric. There was water everywhere, and all I could hear in the far corner, I couldn't see this person, all I could hear was, this horrible panting sound.
Wow.
So I'm like, what's going on here? Of course, immediately I sensed the evil presence. I mean, I really did. There's just certain sense of evil and oppression you feel.
Did you smell any? Did you smell any putrid smell?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it was really bad, foul body odor, and it was beyond body odor. And when I looked in the corner, there's this little girl. She was buck naked, crouched in the corner with her back to me. And of course, I introduced myself and said, "How may I help you today?" And she turned around and put her hands up like claws and just went, "Ah!" I mean, just her tongue. It was just absolutely terrifying.
That's when I would shut the door and call for orderlies.
I did, man. I ran to the door and I called the psych ward and I said, "Listen,
I got one for you."
But you know what? You may want to call a priest or somebody because you're going to need help with this one."
Wow.
And I followed up with the psychiatrist, and he said her drug screen was negative. She had not taken any drugs. She was not psychotic. She had no history of schizophrenia. I mean, there was no reason why she would act that way or have that abnormal strength. And I said, "Well, I think she was demon-possessed." And of course, he thought I was nuts,
Yeah, and then usually when you tell somebody
I've
that,
got a room waiting for you if you believe that. So that kind of got my interest going in, and so I watched patients through the years. I've met maybe 2 or 3 other patients that I thought might have been demon-possessed, but she was a definite. She wasn't a maybe.
Dr. Scott Peck wrote a book.
Oh, yeah.
The one he wrote before he died. Are you familiar with this one?
Yeah, what was the name? I forgot it. In fact, I picked it up and read it right before, as I was writing the 12th demon.
Yeah, it basically zooms in on the 2 chapters in People of the Lie when he talked about demon possession.
People of the Lie.
But this is past People of the Lie. I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah.
It's the last one. He wrote and he talked a little bit about Malachi Martin when he was alive and some of the mentorship that I guess Malachi provided him with. And
I got Malachi Martin's book, too.
Hostage to the Devil?
Hostage to the Devil.
I can't ever sit down and read that all the way through.
I can't either.
Okay. I'm not the only one then. I challenged Trent to do it, you remember, a while back, and he got about 3/4 of the way through it, too, and he had to put it down.
I mean, I can't get through a chapter without having to put it down. In fact, my character, Cephas Lawrence, I kind of based on a little bit on that Malachi Martin, his real-life presence. because I thought that that relationship between him and Dr. Scott Peck was kind of interesting, and so I pulled that into my books to give my main character, Jonathan Steele. He needed a mentor. He needed somebody that could help him deal with things, which we all need. You know, it'd be nice if we all had mentors.
Well, yeah, definitely. You know, I was D. Were you with us then when we went to Twin Lakes Lodge?
No, I wasn't there.
Excuse me. There's a haunted location here in Greensboro that we went to, and I invited John Zaffis. I don't know if you're familiar with who John Zaffis is.
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, John Zaffis is he's Lorraine Warren's and Ed Warren's nephew, and Lorraine Warren's best known for the Amityville Horror.
Oh, okay.
She was the psychic that went in. They're very, very devout Roman Catholics. Well, he grew up practicing what he calls the work, which is going to help people with these, situations, and he brings in priests to do exorcisms and things like that. We became good friends over time, corresponding back and forth, him being on my show, over the years. And so I invited him down to Greensboro. I said, hey, there's some strange things going on in this bed and breakfast. I want you to check it out, and, for fun, we'll tag along and we'll bring all the radio stuff, and we'll do it live.
Yeah.
That was a bad idea. But over the course, we saw some pretty freaky stuff. But, all in all, over the course of the whole thing, we had a good time. And, John, saw some things that he found very, odd. And John and I, we disagree on our views of the Bible, so he calls me the heretic because I blame everything on demons. So that's my nickname now, the heretic.
The heretic.
Because I call everybody a heretic. I was giving him a hard time about it. But
call that too.
But the whole thing is, over the time that we were there, he started telling me stories because apparently him, Lorraine and Malachi Martin were good friends, and then he met Malachi, and they became good friends.
Oh, wow.
So they had, over the course of time, they had developed this friendship before his death, and I was like, wow, it's just such a small world when you pull all those people together.
Yeah.
And when I started this show back in college, gosh, in 2000, I think was a year, and I went to college late. So to me, I went on the 9-year path to earn the 4-year degree. When I started the show in 2000, it was something that was it wasn't really talked about a lot, and now it seems like every other thing you see in the media, and this is one of the things that I've hit on, and I don't know where you stand on it. I like your opinion, but it seems like every other thing in the media is always about the supernatural, about demons, or not demons, but about ghosts and the dead and after death and what happens. And they even to the point where they're doing these reality shows on what is it? The supernatural? No, what was it? Kids?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, but they have another one that's the supernatural, or not supernatural, Paranormal State, which is on A&E, and then of course you got
Paranormal State, yeah.
Lorraine's in that. Lorraine Warren's in that.
Yeah, and then you got the guys from Taps doing Ghost Hunters on Sci-Fi and stuff.
And these guys, Jason and Grant, I mean, we know these guys, and they've been doing this a long time before. They got a TV
really
show,
became popular,
and they've been friends with John and all that. I mean, all these people, there were such small groups back when I got into this and started interviewing people, and now it seems like, you turn a corner, somebody's got a ghost hunting group or something like that, and I think that's dangerous when you go out looking for this stuff and you don't know anything about what you're messing with.
Yeah,
I mean, you're just opening a door for
demonic possession,
influence in your life. That's what you're doing.
Well, and that's the one thing. All the people that we've interviewed that actually do this, they say, that's the one thing they tell us. I wasn't looking for this. Don't go looking for ghosts and demons. Don't do it.
Yeah.
I just happened to fall into it, and now I'm, trying to help people by, because
Did you see The Exorcism of Emily Rose?
I have not, but I want to watch it. I started watching it, and at the time I was working on my final rewrite of The 12th Demon, and I said, this is going to influence my writing.
Oh, yeah.
I know that sounds weird, but I said, I can't watch this right now because I don't want this to creep into my story.
No, you're right. You're right.
So I heard it's a great movie.
It is. It's a scary movie.
I heard it's really scary, and it's based on a true story, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but the true story takes place, I think, in the 1970s in Germany.
Yeah.
They've changed the names to protect the innocent. But the thing behind that, there's this one scene where the priest is in the jail, and he looks, and there's this, or not in the jail, I guess he's in his bed, and he's woken up, and he goes out, and there's this dark cloaked figure that like turns and like walks away. It's just a pitch black silhouette. And it's very creepy. And I asked John about that. I said, John, do you see stuff like that? He says, all the time.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, to live in a world where you see sometimes, I think, both worlds, that would be a very unnerving place to be.
It would be. In fact, part of my plan with my book series is Jonathan Steele's going to eventually get to that point.
Oh, okay.
You know, so I didn't know anything about what you and I just talked about, but
sure.
That's something he's going to find very unnerving, and people are going to think he's crazy. But you know, back to your question about why are people fascinated with the supernatural, I remember watching. It was when the year 2000 was coming in. And they had Arthur C. Clarke on there, and of course they were, you know, who wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Sure.
And so they were asking him about, this is the new millennium, 2001. And he said, what do you see is going to happen in this new millennium? And he said, we're going to see the death of religion and the birth of spirituality. And I wrote that down, and I thought to myself, what does he mean by that? But I think we're seeing that. People are thirsting for something of spiritual value, but they're looking in all the wrong places. You know what I'm saying? They don't trust religion, and I think organized religion has become very untrustworthy, and certain churches have. But they're not opposed to going out and watching these shows about let's hunt down demons, and you know, because to them that's a glimpse into the supernatural world that we all want. You know, we all want to know God. We all want to be a part of that. We're thirsting for that, and the Bible says God put eternity in the hearts of all men, and we're looking for that. And you know, if we're not looking in the right place, we're going to look in the wrong place.
Well, I think people feel like organized religion has sold them down the water, and it has. Yeah. Religion is what it is religion.
That's
you know, people need to.
Comes from man.
People need to understand that you know, the only way about it is a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
That's right. That's right.
And that's a problem we've got today. Is they view it as religion, and I think if you see. You know, a lot of what's going on in certain churches, and even a lot of writers, and I'm not going to mention any names here. Let me see how do I get around this by not mentioning any names. There's some writers in the Christian genre that write books that I doubt the veracity of.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll leave it at that. And they're telling their own story, but I seriously have some doubts about the veracity of what they say they experienced. If that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
And I think that, you know, yeah, it's great if they're, you know, to convert people to this idea, but if the conversion is a lie, if what brings them to the conversion is a lie, I think that just tarnishes the whole thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And but anyway, we'll talk about that off air here in a second because I do have some quotes. But you know, it's just interesting the way society's moved on, and I myself am in the process of writing a book that I've been writing now for God knows a year, but you know, a little here, a little there. But I'm just talking about some of the things that we talk about on the show, and the fact that you know all these things that people are interested in, and you know, I really do believe we're living in a time where it's accelerating.
Oh, I think so too. There is no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, when they can come back with an X-Files movie 10 years later and people pay to see it, I mean, people are still fascinated. Because, I mean, that movie says it all. I want to believe. You know, that's the subtitle. I haven't seen it, by the way. But
I haven't either.
I haven't either.
Have you seen the new Batman film?
I mean, G.K. Chesterton is a famous writer back around the turn of the
Father
century.
Brown.
Yeah, you know.
I've read a lot of Father Brown mysteries.
You know, and that famous quote he says where it's not that when people stop believing in God that they'll believe in terrible or evil, is that they'll believe anything. You know, and that's the age we're living in. I can't believe. I mean, here's all this evidence for the God of the Bible, and you're going to reject that, but you don't have any problem believing some of this other garbage out there. You know?
I agree.
It's insane. It's like you just want to say,
"What's wrong with you?" Yeah.
So. Anyway.
I love that when they can throw literary quips at me and I get it. Isn't that cool? I love speaking to people.
That's all right. It kind of goes over my head, but that's all right.
No, I really love talking to people that are fascinated with literature. That's another thing. The print is just dead. These kids can't read. They can't write. They text and then they email. It's awful.
They don't know how to think linear, logically, and you know they think all over the place. So.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible. I mean, I can't find I'm not even going to go there.
Yeah.
That'd be a whole new show in of itself.
Don't get me started.
And well, we did a show like that. We do another talk show. It's a political talk show. And we did. What was the guy's name? D. He wrote a book basically. Don't trust anyone under 30. Was that it?
Yeah.
Oh Oh, wow.
And I'm like, good, I just made it. I'm 32. We're good. So, but it's true, you know, the age of the modern, I don't know, it's just, it's a different world they grew up in.
It is a very different world, and I just went to see The Dark Knight. I don't know if y'all have seen that.
That's what I was asking about. I haven't seen it. Is it good?
Oh, it's amazing.
Good stuff?
It's amazing, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. I had to get up and walk out 3 times.
Really? Why?
Because it's
so
really
disturbing.
Yes, it is very disturbing.
So disturbing. The violence, Heath Ledger is awesome as the Joker, but just that image was just, it was like it was boring into my head.
Yeah, because there's a lot of that.
Go out and just literally catch my breath and then come back in to finish watching the thing. And,
yeah, because there's a lot of that.
And this is what society is seeing. I mean, this is what these kids love, this kind of helter-skelter, chaotic, jumbled up thing and it was a great movie, don't get me wrong. Well directed, well acted. I mean, Heath Ledger's going to win an Oscar, but it was very disturbing.
Yeah, because there's a lot of that psychological suspense that really, really drive into that movie.
Right, yeah.
And it's it's people on people kind of like suspense,
Exactly. Yep.
What would you do? It's kind of like put you in that situation of what would you do if this happened? Would you be willing to do this?
It's like, it's
to
like
save
the Saw
yourself.
Movies,
Yeah.
Are you going to die or are you going to kill the guy to get out of the room? This is a no-win situation. So.
Kind of like that old Alfred Hitchcock show where they bring a suitcase and then there's a button. They say if you press the button, somebody you never met will die and we'll give you $10,000.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
There's a button
and it puts that
in this movie. The same exact deal. There's 2 buttons, and whoever pushes one of those buttons first kills the other.
Oh, wow.
And right at the end of the movie, I don't want to give away the movie, but it's a very powerful moment about what's going to happen, who's going to push the button first.
Yeah. That was the scene in the movie where I literally was like just glued, mouth open, just watching it going, oh my gosh.
Because I'm thinking now, how are they going to resolve this? Of course, the writer, where are they going to take this? What is the point they're going to prove with this scene?
No.
Of course, I'm thinking all the different possibilities, and I was actually surprised that they handled it the way they did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
it was
great.
Very well done.
I usually think these things out before they're done.
Well, I do too. I mean, I can't,
I even did that with that M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Village.
Yeah.
I had that figured out.
I figured it out just by watching the previews.
Oh, I didn't
get it until about 2 minutes into the movie, and then I got it.
It took me about 5 or 10, I think. But
The Sixth Sense, I was about 15 minutes into the movie, and I literally stood up and screamed no when I realized what he was doing.
The Sixth Sense, I didn't get.
Looks at me, and I go, it's okay, I'm all right,
I didn't get The Sixth Sense until the very end.
Oh,
yeah.
Believe it or not.
I got it, and I went, no, surely he's not going to do this.
And he did it.
No way. And of course, then I really respected him because, The Sixth Sense was kind of like lightning in a bottle. He hasn't done anything that well since then.
No.
He did such a great job, but...
and if you haven't seen The Village, the big monster is a bulldozer.
That's right.
So there.
Now, so you're a big horror movie buff, horror movie fan?
Yes, certain horror movies.
Have you?
I don't like the ones like Hostel and Saw.
I don't either.
No, I don't either.
I don't do that.
I don't like the gore.
No, I like
suspense.
Yeah.
I liked the Halloween films. Okay, I was a big fan of all those, and the new one really bothered me.
Is that the one that...
it's a prequel that, what's his name did?
Rob Zombie?
Yeah, Rob Zombie.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
You're not missing anything. It's the movie would have been good if they cut out the last hour of it, and they had limited some of the violence, I think. But it was disturbing. But they changed the storyline. They want to remake all the good movies, 20 years later.
Yeah, I'm waiting for another new Vampire or Frankenstein movie.
Oh, another. Yeah, well, they're remaking The Wolfman.
Yeah, I saw that, and I forget who's starring in it.
Yeah, I don't know either, but
yeah, they're redoing it. So.
Didn't this new Dark Knight film? Didn't it crush Titanic this weekend?
300 million. It's already.
300 million.
Yeah, it's
wow.
In 2 weeks, it's made over almost as much as Indiana Jones and Iron Man has made all summer.
That's
crazy.
crazy.
2 weekends. So.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. We're going to take a short break. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. If you're alive and listening, please call us 877-722-7382, 877-SCARE-YOU2, or locally 336-996-1596. We're speaking with Bruce Hennigan, author of The 12th Demon Vampyre Majick, the second in a series of 13 books. And we'll be right back after this word from our sponsors. 877-722-7382, 877-SCARE-U2. Call in and speak with Dr. Bruce Hennigan, author of The 12th Demon and also The 13th Demon, and we'll take your calls and your questions. Until then, though, we'll talk about other things. So in the apologetics realm, what I noticed that in the bio that I was sent, they tell me about, now I'm looking for it, the name of the ministry that you...
Reasons to Believe.
That's it. What is that?
Reasons to Believe was founded by an astronomer named Dr. Hugh Ross, and about 25 years ago. And what he wanted to do was try to bring science and faith back together. I mean, science and God and faith all started out together. You know, that's the belief in God is what made most of our early scientists look at the universe. And of course, with the advent of evolution and all that, they kind of separated, but he's showing where there's harmony there. And he started a ministry called Reasons to Believe that is just really an incredible ministry. He has a teaching program that teaches you apologetics and how to defend your faith and how to reconcile a lot of these differences. And earlier we were talking about UFOs. He's got a great book called Lights in the Sky and Little Green Men. I mean, it is a great book. It's very short, and it goes into the science behind possible UFOs, or how could UFOs function. And he has a very interesting theory, kind of similar to what you mentioned a while ago, about what UFOs really are and where they come from. It's a great book, very interesting book, so by Dr. Hugh Ross.
That is interesting. One of our sponsors as well, the UFOstore.com, Randy Hennigan, he believes that way, and there's a number of books up on his website that are devoted to that realm of thinking.
Yeah.
Randy, got to give him a plug there from time to time, you know.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I find it interesting, though. A lot of people say, you know, the Bible's outdated, the Bible's this, the Bible's that. You know, even in the book of Luke, though, it talks about, you know, in the end days, I think you can make an argument that the Bible is telling you the world is round. Because, you know, one man will be taken in the field, the other in a bed. I mean, that's talking about two separate sides of the world.
That's right.
Night and day.
I never thought of that, but you're right. But, you know, back in Isaiah, there's a mention where the earth is described. I was talking about the four corners of the earth, and people used to think that meant the Bible said it was flat. But the word there, corner, is really quadrant, which is a quarter of a sphere, like if you took an apple or an orange and cut it into quarters. So the word there, it's in Isaiah. I can't remember the exact passage, but the original Hebrew word implies that the earth is an orb or a sphere.
Huh.
It's not corners, it's quadrants. And, of course, when they, you know, in the 1600s, they still believed in the flat earth. Some people did, so they put corners instead of quadrants. So the Bible actually talks about a spherical earth thousands of years before we established it scientifically. So.
Yeah, well, there you go. What more proof do you need?
Exactly.
Now, you know, there still is that flat Earth organization.
Uh-huh.
They still exist. I guess they still believe that.
Yep, they still do. People will believe anything.
They will, and it's unfortunate. But well, tell you know, give me what do you want to leave our listeners with? I mean, we've got another 15 minutes, but I like I said, I feel like I want to come back to the book because there's stuff there that I want you to get out and be able to, you know, hey, this is our book, you know.
The book, The 12th Demon, Vampyre Majick, I think is an exciting, inspirational thriller. If you are a Christian reader and you want to read something very exciting and thriller, sort of like Ted Dekker or Frank Peretti, you will love it. I think you'll enjoy it. If you have someone that is borderline, questioning, skeptical, you know, buy the book for them and say, look, this is about vampires. Here's a great book about vampires. Why don't you read it? And it will at least expose them to some of the message of the gospel. It's not overpowering. It's not, you know, it's not preachy, but it plants a seed, and that's what I believe in doing. And the book, you know, one of the central characters in the book is a teenager, so this book really is good for young adults, teenagers, has no language in it, you know, nothing gratuitous. It is kind of scary and creepy, but what isn't nowadays, you know?
That's true.
So that's what I'd say. Either buy it for yourself or buy it for somebody that you know would read it, you'd like to expose them to just a good inspirational read.
Now, how old are you, Bruce, if you don't mind me asking?
I am 53.
53?
53.
Wow. Okay.
So you 29.
You didn't have that goth generation when you grew up.
No, I did.
Okay. Well, we did. We did when we were
What was it?
early 30s here. So we had that.
Yeah.
90s. We were in high school in the 90s. So yeah, we definitely had that going on.
Yeah, you know about the goth. And,
oh yeah, creepy.
Now they've got emo. I don't know what emo is.
Stands for emotional, from what I'm told.
I think emos don't know what emo is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But, I mean, I don't know. I guess growing up, when was that? The 80s that you, well, I guess it might have been earlier than that. Help me out here. When did you graduate high school?
I graduated in the 70s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
when rock and roll was still cool.
Rock and roll, yeah.
When you could go see Aerosmith and they couldn't perform because they were too drugged.
Aerosmith. We're talking Three Dog Night, Creedence Clearwater.
Oh, wow. Okay, the good stuff. The real good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we had the goth mindset. We just didn't wear black. These kids were into drugs, long hair. It was all there, but it was a fascination with death. But it really didn't have a name back then. I guess it wasn't as well organized as it became goth. So anyway,
we've got a caller for you.
Oh,
this is Ron Hunter from Raleigh, North Carolina. Ron, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, Jay. How are you guys doing tonight?
We're doing great. Thanks for calling.
Oh, what's your guest's name again?
Bruce Hennigan.
Bruce Hennigan.
yes, Bruce Hennigan.
Hey, Mr. Hennigan, when you're talking about like vampire cults and things of that nature, if people and this is like sort of a dual question, but is it more along the lines of people are being influenced to go into a cult like this? Like, there's obviously media streams and things like that people claim they use for entertainment. But is it also something different as in, like, if someone thinks that they are being forced into some kind of vampire cult, is there a way that they can ask for help, I guess?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think most of the vampire cults are probably not as popular now as they used to be. And most people that end up in a vampire cult, they want to be part of something. And there's a very strict hierarchy in these clans. They have terminology. They have people who like to drink blood and people who like to be the donor.
Did they have locations for that? Were they in the Northeast or were they on the West Coast or something?
Yeah, I mean, they have clubs, some of these goth clubs.
Well, I mean, you say they. Give me some locations. Like, how prevalent was it? Was it a major crime thing? Did it get on the crime blotter often, or are you talking about...
No, it really didn't. It never really made much news, but most of your major metropolitan areas would have this subculture with the vampire clans. They would go to clubs like there was a club called the Blood Clot, I think, in Dallas. And what they used to do is play Masquerade. If you remember back...
Vampire the Masquerade.
Vampire the Masquerade.
Very popular.
Yes, I actually used to play it myself.
People would play Masquerade, and they would have balls, and they would have dances and meet at these clubs. And then there would be clans or groups of people within these larger groups that were kind of... Each one of them would dress differently or have a different name or have a different style.
Did you ever go to one of these?
No, I've never been to one. But there's an excellent...
I have actually.
Yeah, and I have as
and
well.
D as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we can not to the. I've been to one of the live sessions. It was a little too strange for me.
It's pretty strange.
But we did tabletop like your old fashioned D&D stuff. And I really don't think there's anything wrong with those games if you have sane people playing them.
Yeah. Now, like for myself as well. I mean, I used to play that live action Masquerade as well. And it was like you said. There were people that would dress up differently to be
crazy
to fit into the particular clans that were sectioned out for the masquerade and stuff. And some people really, really got into it a little too much.
Yeah, they really thought they were real vampires.
Yeah.
I mean,
now, what took me away from it is when I went to one, and they brought out all these. Looked like wine bottles that were full of a red liquid, and they were pretending that they were pouring blood wine, is what they were calling it, in glasses, and they handing it out.
Did you go to the one at UNCG? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, I went to the one that was at G-Tech, and then also the one that was in Hobby Park. Now that's when it got a little too weird for me. Now,
I'd never seen those.
It was just fruit punch. But
it's weird.
I was like, okay, that's taking it a step too far.
It's like some kind of demonic communion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there is a excellent documentary from A&E
maybe indicate
about
a high level of brainwashing of some sort, or perhaps a mental illness too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very, very structured, very environment that these people, when they join these clans, they're like it's almost like S&M. I mean, they are really pushed down to the lower level of humanity, and they have to work their way back up to the hierarchy to even be considered worthy of the
the main head guy's attention. So it's pretty rigorous.
The primogen.
Well, Ron, we appreciate the call. We still love you.
For the call.
We still love you, even though you support Barack Obama. We still love you.
Hey, man, don't go there, dude.
All right, Ron, take care.
It does, the activity that you're describing, if it goes too far or if somebody uses... See, the thing is, this puts people at a vulnerability, I guess is what the original question was. Where is the vulnerability in thinking about something like this? If you think it is innocent, it is not, and it's in multiple things. Not just are you risking your relationship with Christ, which, of course, is implied.
And I deal with that in my book, The 12th Demon. One of my teenage characters exactly finds himself in that situation. He's pulled back into a vampire clan, but he's become a Christian since then. And he has to ask himself, what am I doing here? Why, am I allowing myself to be pulled back into this lifestyle? Can I lose my Christianity? I mean, that's one of the questions. He's a new Christian, and he says, can I lose my Christianity? Can I denounce Christ and become one of these people again? And that's one of the key issues I deal with in the book.
Well, but most Christians put their faith in Christ to hold on to them, to give them the enough power to hold back on to Him. That's basically what it is. Even past even life, that's a very powerful bond.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's how I feel about it. It's much more powerful than anything you'd experience on earth. But the thing is, not only do you put yourself at a vulnerability if you get involved in something like this, but that there are also people that would prey on groups like that, including military groups of people. Like, in the old days, in the old Russian days, it would be the KGB. If you could find a group of people who were trying to pretend like they were vampires, would be pretty much the ideal thing you wanted to find a bunch of crazy people to do whatever you wanted them to do. I mean, God knows what these guys would make up. And this was, it's much before either of our times, or I would imagine. I know you might know those from the early days. Obviously, you were around when the Kennedys, like the missile crisis and stuff went on, right?
Well, I was a little kid. But I do remember the terror of the nuclear, with
the desk thing,
duck and roll or whatever.
Oh wow, duck and cover.
And I remember begging my mother and daddy to build a bomb shelter in the backyard.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Ron, thanks for your call, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks for your call, Ron.
Jesus bless you guys, because it sounds like you're going to need it.
All right, Ron.
Take care, brother. All right. Ron Paul Hunter from Raleigh, North Carolina. Yeah, I remember as a kid growing up in the 80s, that was such a scary thing, the idea of nuclear war with Russia.
Oh, yeah.
Big bad Russia. I have a good friend of mine I went to law school with. His name's Leo Kabakov, and he practices in New York now. But he's like, they used to tell us that, the Americans were bad. We're about the same age. And, I think some of his friends actually beat him up over something that he wasn't following the communist regime exactly the way they wanted him to.
Oh, wow.
And questioned whether or not, the Americans were bad. And this was when he was a kid. And he said, yeah, they got beat up pretty bad over it.
Yeah, but as far as like when you were talking about, as far as like the vampire clans of the masquerade and that kind of stuff, that was the one thing I did notice when I played the game, is that most of the time it was the kids who were basically considered the outcasts or the lower end as far as like in the hierarchy, even in like high schools and stuff. They were always they're the nerds. They were the geeks.
Right.
They were the
I was one of those.
Yeah, so we all were.
Before the geek was a word.
Well, see, and and the good thing about the one that I actually played in, we actually had like referee kind of like things. So like if something kind of got out of hand or inappropriate,
it's like a safe word.
Yeah, seriously, if something got out of hand or inappropriate, it was there was mute. Everything was everybody stopped. If the fight broke out, it was taken care of.
Well, see, that's a reason. The way that I played it was with two of my really good friends, and it was a tabletop game, basically just like any board game. And you create it with your mind, and you learn things, not demonic things, but you learn words, you learn vocabulary. That's I think that's where I actually learned the word lexicon from that game system.
Yeah, probably.
And I was in high school, and it was a unique experience. It was fun to use your imagination. And it was nice to be someone different. And I guess that's the idea. You're playing a character with powers.
Different. Yeah.
And when you're the outcast, given when you're given that kind of power, it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm going to get crucified for this. That's why, a lot of guys end up being cops. I really believe that. They're picked on in high school, they become cops, and then they totally detest me from the stand when I ask them certain questions. But that's what I do.
That's another topic.
But I really do. I believe that that's a reason certain people pick certain jobs. That's a reason that kids play certain games. If they're outcast, if they're not the jock, if they're not the cheerleader, but they want to feel part of something, they can all get together. But at the same time, if you're talking about things in the spiritual realm, you can go the wrong way rather easily.
I think so. Yeah.
Sorry about my long commentary there. You got 3 minutes, Bruce. Take it away.
3 minutes. Well, I would just hope everybody would consider looking into The 12th Demon, Vampyre Majick. I think it's a great supernatural thriller. It's got inspirational elements. It's got vampires. It's got demons. It's all about good and evil, and it's good, clean, entertaining story. And while you're at it, check out The 13th Demon too. So.
And you can get those from your website?
Yeah, you can start with my websites, steelchronicles.com or 12thdemon.com or 13th Demon.
Now, is that a signed copy if they order it direct from your website?
No, that'll come straight from Amazon. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way they can get a signed copy?
Well, right now, the only place is in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Oh, I got you.
Oh, okay.
I've got some here in my local Barnes & Noble. I'm going to try to be doing some book signings in the next 2 or 3 months as we get closer to Halloween. And, out towards the East Coast and the Southeast Coast down in that area, I'm going to contact some Barnes & Nobles that have ordered the book and see if I can come do some book signings. So, there, you may find one in your area. But, don't wait until then. Go ahead and buy it now.
Buy it now and bring it to the book signing.
That's right.
I'll sign it. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be in Sleepy Hollow this Halloween, so that should be a good, fun bash. We're going to talk about the realities behind the story of Washington Irving. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. If you'll stay on the line with me, Bruce, we'll talk a little bit after the show, if that's okay.
Sure.
You're listening to World of the Unexplained. I'm Jay Scott. You're only JD on the OmniSound Radio 1 network.
This is JD Clements, your only other JD on the OmniSound Radio 1
He does
network.
this all the time. Yeah, it's good stuff. You can tell. Listen, guys, we'll see you guys next Monday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here. We'll be back then. Have a good week.